Hey YouTube, Shelka04 here. Hey, do me a favor. First off, subscribe to my channel so I know people are watching. It's greatly appreciated. Today, what I want to talk about is focusing on RV'ers. Whether you're a weekend camper or a full-time warrior out there, whether you're plugging in someplace or boondocking out in the middle of nowhere, it's a nice thing at times to be able to check the internet and stay up with what's going on in society. Now, we've been on the road since last September, and today is July 18th, I guess, 17th or 18th. I don't know. One of the things when you're on the road is you sort of forget what day it is because every day's the same. Anyway, getting back to what I want to talk about today is how do you stay connected with the internet while you're traveling around. First off, my advice is don't skimp on the computer. Get yourself a nice laptop computer, or, in our case, we carry two. Let me show you what we got. We got this thing, which is a Hewlett Packard. I think they called it a netbook. It's got a slightly smaller than typical keyboard, but this is what we primarily do all of our GPS stuff and mapping, navigating, that sort of stuff. We do some Google Earth on it. Well, I've got a layer that I can turn on and off that shows where all the Walmarts are that are boondock friendly. But the real nuts and bolts of the process is this thing. It's a 17-inch Hewlett Packard. Now, it's not your typical at-home model. It's more of a junior level business model. The difference between a home model and a business model is the business models typically have an illuminated keyboard. And that's come in many times. It really helped us. That's really worked out great, because there have been times when we either have been in the front seat and it's been dark and wanted the to have the keys illuminated, or for whatever reason, one of us is back here on the internet and the other person's trying to sleep, and the illuminated keyboard has really come through. Now, I think most laptops nowadays come standard with their own built-in network card. So that's your first approach. Go someplace and spark up the computer and see what you get just by turning on your onboard Wi-Fi. In some instances, you may see nothing. In others, you may see some public networks that are full-blown. There you go, you're connected. The best places to look for a public network are either outside of a library, or some Walmarts have them. They're getting more and more. Subway restaurants, Hardee's, McDonald's, but the best, the king of all Wi-Fi connections, is at Lowe's. And the neat thing is, or the sweet thing is, that now most Walmarts are within sight of Lowe's. If it can be worked out, I don't know if they're in cahoots or what, but new Walmarts or new Lowe's will be going up within sight of each other typically. And that's been my experience since last September. If I'm full of shit, tell me about it. Okay, so let's say, for the sake of argument, you see an open network on your laptop, but you just can't get there because maybe you got one bar. Okay, so now you got two things to do. Hang on, I got to dig it out. Your first line of offense is something like this. I've got a Versa Wi-Fi USB adapter 3. I think this thing was about $20. And here's what I do typically. It's a little I think it's a 3 decibel antenna, and it's got a magnetic base. And I put this on top of the cab or the door, and then run the cable through the window and hook this into the laptop. And this is pretty good for I don't know, a couple of 100 feet, maybe up to 500 feet. Like I said, it's a 3 decibel. It's a hell of a lot better than what's in the laptop, but it's not not the best. Now, if I see a network with that antenna and it gets me the 5 bars, so be it. Then I go with that. But if it doesn't, then what I do is I pull out the big guns. This is the big gun. This is a 15 decibel Wi-Fi antenna with a 25-foot cord, and this is the USB adapter that plugs into the side of the computer. With this thing, last night, I pulled 5 bars. Let me see how to describe this. The complete length of a Walmart parking lot, a supercenter, plus the building. I'm going through the wall to a McDonald's on the other side of the building. So, what could that be? 2,500 or 3,000 feet? And like I said, I got 5 bars and was streaming video with this. So, the reason I don't go with this first is because what they want you to do is mount it outside full time somewhere. And what I do is I put this in the windows, I'll prop it up with some pillows, or I'll put it back here. Right there is enough. You don't need, it doesn't have to be unobstructed. It doesn't have to be completely line of sight. In fact, this thing just has to be sort of pointed in a general direction. They do make antennas called, I think it's Yagis, which basically looks like a tennis ball tube. And those are highly directional. And I don't recommend those because you're going to spend time, doing one of these deals looking to get your signal better. A 15 decibel antenna like this is the way to go. And again, I got this one from Crane as well. Crane is the provider for the 3 decibel antenna that I just showed you. Now, one last thing to consider getting before you get on the road, and this will take a little preparation on your part, but they make a thing called a sling box. And a sling box is actually probably about this big, all right? And what this thing does is it sits at home, back in the world, on top of your cable box. It sits between your cable box and your television and is connected to your router. Now, if you're full-time RVing and don't have a home like is our case, in our situation, my parents host the sling box. But if you got a full-time home, more power to you, leave the sling box at home, all hooked up. If you're full-time RVing and got a friend or a relative, the best situation is somebody in a different time zone. What the sling box does is allows us to pull the image and the sound from their television over the internet securely to our computer. And so I can use the mouse. When I pull up the Slingbox app, you get a little virtual remote that comes up, and I can use the mouse to mouse over and push the buttons as if I was sitting in my parents' living room hitting the remote myself. But I can watch their television anywhere in the world as long as I can get to the internet. And again, like I said, last night we're sitting in the Walmart parking lot 3,000 feet away from the free Wi-Fi, and I'm watching CBS News coming from my parents' house in North Carolina. Now, this is a side issue from people who stream like Hulu and Netflix and stuff like that. Amazon has some streaming stuff. This is live television, as if you're sitting there. So, you keep that. The reason we like it is because you're not going to get Hulu streaming the news to you, and so we want to stay in touch. We do the news thing. The Sling Box costs about $130. There's no, unlike TiVo, which is a DVR, there's no monthly fee for any updates or anything like that. You buy it once, hook it up, and forget it. We've had ours for online for the last 4.5 years, and it's been running great. We've watched television everywhere we've traveled. So that gives you an idea as far as how we, as full-time people RVing, stay connected with the internet and basically stay connected with the world via the Slingbox. If you got any questions or have any comments, please feel free to make them below, and I'll respond. If you have the time, please subscribe, and I appreciate it. Again, thank you. Shelka04 out.